Good morning, everybody. It's Wednesday, the 10th of September. My name is Kyle, and this is the AI with Kyle daily news and update show. I'm going to be running through the latest information in the world of artificial intelligence, giving a bit of commentary, and also answering questions from the live audience who are joining me today. Good morning, everybody who is with me already. Let's kick off. So the first piece of news, for those of you who missed it, last night there was a Apple conference where Apple showed us everything new that they are launching. Specifically, the iPhone 17, which looks very nice. Like, I have not looked at iPhones in the last few years and thought, I actually quite want that iPhone. That looks lovely. The iPhone Air in particular is a beautiful looking piece of equipment. I don't know what the performance is like. I don't know what the battery's like, but it's gorgeous looking. However, what they did not talk about, and it was glaringly obvious, they did not talk about artificial intelligence at all. So about a year ago, they were pushing Apple Intelligence, their incredibly confusingly named version of AI, because it's also AI, but it's Apple Intelligence. And it was a letdown. It was terrible. It was worse than terrible. There was nothing exciting about what they were doing. And Apple have been playing catch up for the last couple of years, really. They have put forward nothing in artificial intelligence. I'm kind of okay with that if they are focusing on what it looks like they're focusing on. Yesterday are focusing on hardware and getting new products out to market and focusing their attentions there, not worrying too much about AI, and then waiting, and this is typical Apple, waiting until the technology matures a little bit and then jumping in with the best version of that. That's what they've done multiple times. They did not invent the iPod. We had things like Zunes before that. We had the Creative Labs versions, I forget what they were called, but we had MP3 players before we had iPods. We did not have, we had smartphones before the iPhone came out, but again, Apple perfected the form, and we had tablets. Microsoft had a tablet before the iPad came out, but once again, Apple sat back, waited a year or two until the technology started to mature, until there was proof of the market demand, and then they launched what is basically the ultimate version of that hardware. They may be doing something similar with AI. However, doing so would require them to be training their own models, which we're pretty well, we know they are, but we know they're not doing it at the scale required to enter the race with a frontier, a base level model like an OpenAI's ChatGPT, like an Anthropic's Claude, or even like an xAI's Grok. That requires a huge amount of investment in data centers, and it does not appear like Apple are doing this, despite having huge boatloads of cash that they could put into this. So they may surprise us one day and say, here we go, here is the ultimate form of generative AI. I know we kept you waiting, but boom, here it is, and it's going to take over the world because suddenly it's in billions of devices. But it would be one hell of a magic trick for them to pull that off, honestly. So what we saw instead yesterday was primarily a hardware reveal with no mention of artificial intelligence. They have totally left that behind. Previous conferences from Apple, they were trying to push it, but they were pushing things like the Memojis, AI generated emojis and stuff, and it was bad. It wasn't very good. So interesting to see that they are just not bothering with artificial intelligence, or they're holding something back. Sam Altman, head of OpenAI, he tweeted, "The first new iPhone upgrade I've really wanted in a while looks very cool." And I agree with this sentiment entirely. The iPhone Air looks fantastic. I don't know, how much is it? Am I gonna end up buying one this week? $1,000 with pre-orders starting on Friday in advance of general availability on the 19th of September. Do I need an $1,000 phone? Probably not. Let's be honest. So what I wanted to highlight on this Twitter feed, here we go. So somebody jumped in and they said to Sam Altman, the head of OpenAI, tell them to replace Siri with ChatGPT voice. And Sam Altman responded, surprisingly, he said, "That, to be honest, sounds like a great idea. I am supportive." So am I. Like, they've already added, they have a deal between Apple and OpenAI, which they signed last year, March, I think it was. And this is what got Elon Musk's knickers in a twist, that they do have this deal between OpenAI, creators of ChatGPT, and Apple. What it allows is for Siri to, I can't say that word because it's going to trigger, for for Apple's assistant to access ChatGPT. So you can say, hey Siri, can you ask ChatGPT to do XYZ? It's a integration of some sorts. It's kind of pointless because you can just use the voice assistant inside ChatGPT, and honestly it's a lot better because you don't have Siri garbling your instructions. Siri still can't set an egg timer for me, and this is a technology that's 14 years old now and it's still not very good. But if we replaced it, if Apple replaced it entirely with ChatGPT, then they would have a top of the line voice model inside of their telephones, which would then have distribution to billions of people worldwide. So that would be a hell of a coup for both Apple and for ChatGPT. I could 100% understand why Apple would not want to do that. And it would also be a big push for ChatGPT to be able to deal with all of those new incoming requests, but that would be wonderful. So Sam Altman agrees. He says, sounds like a great idea. I am supportive. So there's a few conflicting things here, though, because these are both huge companies. Sam Altman is working with Johnny Ive, the designer of the original iPod and a bunch of Apple products, and they are working on some kind of physical product. The rumors I've heard is that it's like a little puck that you have with you, and it has a 360 camera, so it can see what's going on around all the time, and it can pull in that information, basically giving AI sensors, being able to put it into the world, because that's one thing that AI still lacks. It's not able to interact with the world around it. So potentially the device that they're working on is some form of sensory input and output for artificial intelligence. That would obviously put them on a competing track with Apple, because they'd be moving into the hardware business. And at the same time, Apple are working on, we think, their own AI models and maybe bringing out something in the future, but we don't really know. So I thought it was an interesting presentation, primarily because they did not talk about artificial intelligence at all. We actually looked at it was a study, I think it was last week, would have been last week, where it seems like consumers in the US, but I'm sure globally, don't really want artificial intelligence in their telephones. And they were saying that that is not a reason for upgrading a phone. So a CNET survey finds that just 11% of US smartphone users choose to upgrade their devices because of AI, a drop of 7% from a similar survey last year. So back in, 2025? So back in 2024, 18% of people said, yes, I would upgrade my phone if it had cool AI features. Now that's dropped to 11. So I think people have been burnt by poorly implemented AI features inside of their devices. Further, about 3 in 10 people don't find mobile AI helpful and don't want to see any more features added. I'm sure on top of that, there are also privacy concerns as well. So maybe Apple are playing the right game here. They're not putting a technology that people don't want into their telephones, and maybe they are waiting to see how this all pans out before they implement AI, if they ever do. I'm going to hop over to some questions. Good morning, everybody. Let's see if there's anything here. No questions. Awesome. Makes it a lot easier. For me, I'll just push on with the news and then hop over to the questions. A reminder, because I always forget to say until the end, all of these videos are going to be on YouTube. We edit them, we make them more accessible. And there's a daily newsletter which comes out every single morning at 8 a.m, which has a summary of the previous live. So if you can't make the live, or you don't have an hour to sit with me, I fully understand. There are other ways to access this information through YouTube. So you look on I am Kyle Balmer. I should pop up on YouTube if you search it, or follow the link in my bio and you can get the newsletter totally free. So next thing, speaking of alliances, shifting alliances. So we just talked about Apple and their kind of deal with OpenAI, and Sam Altman saying, yeah, we could put ChatGPT in phones, we could replace Siri, I'd be happy to do that. So these big tech companies are working together and are working against each other, and we're seeing a lot of that with Microsoft in particular. So Microsoft, it's complicated, but they have options to 49% of OpenAI's profit up to a certain cap. So they own a portion of of OpenAI. It's a complicated deal, but they are intertwined, let's just say that. And on top of that, OpenAI ChatGPT is also hosted on and built upon Azure servers, which are Microsoft. And then Microsoft have a product, Copilot, which is built upon ChatGPT. So you have this weird kind of multi-layered, multifaceted connections where they are working with each other at multiple levels. It's both financial and integration connections between Microsoft and OpenAI. So Microsoft were one of the first people to basically back OpenAI. That said, Microsoft are looking to diversify. So their Copilot is currently built on ChatGPT, on GPT-5 in particular. They upgraded it 2 weeks ago, much to everyone's dismay. They are looking to diversify away from OpenAI, and we've had 2 pieces of news in the last week. So the first is they have released their own model. So Microsoft have been working on their own model. It is currently, let's pull it up on LM Arena. It's doing okay. It's their first model that they've trained themselves, or sorry, the first one that they're releasing. I'm sure they have others. It is not released publicly yet. Where is it? Oh gosh, where is it? There it is. Oh, it's fallen to 24th. So it's called MAI, or MAI, Microsoft AI. Presumably, I've just put 2 and 2 together. It's probably Microsoft AI, MAI. So MAI 1 preview, and then there's also a image model as well. So that is currently sitting at 24th position on LM Arena. Obviously, the Arena scores are one thing. It's not the total truth, but it's a useful gauge, a useful measure to see how the models stack up against each other. They have not released it, is the other thing too. So it's still in testing. So Microsoft have got their own model, which means they might be looking to move away from ChatGPT as the underpinning of Microsoft Copilot. That makes a lot of sense. Replace OpenAI's model with your own model, and then you have less dependency. Makes perfect sense. They are also buying AI from Anthropic. So we've just heard Microsoft will pay to use Anthropic's AI in Office 365 applications. The move means that Anthropic's tech, so Claude, will help power new features in Word, Excel, Outlook, and PowerPoint alongside OpenAI's, marking the end of Microsoft's previous reliance solely on ChatGPT Maker for its productivity suite. Microsoft's move to diversify its AI partnerships comes amidst a growing rift with OpenAI, which has pursued its own infrastructure projects as well as a potential LinkedIn competitor. Yes, OpenAI have said that they're going to build a jobs platform, which people are calling it a LinkedIn competitor. I don't know if that's necessarily the case. LinkedIn is its own beast because it's a social media platform as well. But they are looking to build an AI-powered job matching service, which makes perfect sense. Microsoft's Anthropic deal also comes as the company negotiates a new deal with OpenAI to secure access to its AI models after a pending for-profit restructuring, still pending. But the information, this is where they're getting it from, that says the move isn't a negotiation tactic. Leaders at Microsoft believe Anthropic's latest models, Claude Sonnet specifically, perform better than OpenAI's in certain functions like creating aesthetically pleasing PowerPoint presentations. Okay, I mean, I agree. I think Claude is a wonderful model, and it's a very, very good model. And this makes sense. Having access to multiple models allows you to deploy them for what they are best at, and all AIs are slightly better at different things. So why not do that if you have that as an option? This isn't the first time Microsoft has branched out though. While OpenAI is the default model, Microsoft offers other models like xAI's Grok and Anthropic's Claude through the GitHub Copilot. Microsoft is also trying to set itself up for self-reliance. The company recently introduced its first 2 in-house models, My Voice 1 and My 1 Preview. So we are seeing they're calling it a rift. I think it's more like a diversification. These are companies that are realizing they cannot be overly reliant on each other, and they're going to get on with doing their own things. This is also because their actual connection and the 49% that Microsoft have options on is quite a messy deal, and I think they're both outgrowing the partnership. So I don't see this as necessarily an acrimonious split. but instead 2 companies who realize AI is, the future. This is what they need to invest in, and they are working out their own projects. And probably continuing to work together. I don't think Sam Altman is going to have a rift with Microsoft in the same way that he has with Elon Musk, probably because there are less egos involved there. But we will see. It's very interesting and good, fantastic news for Anthropic. I'm glad that people are finally waking up and realizing how good Claude is, how good Anthropic is, and that they're absolutely knocking it out of the park with their models. If you have not used Anthropic, I highly recommend you do so. For full disclosure, I do get Claude for free. I'm on the Max plan or whatever it is. So Anthropic give that to me for free, but I'm not paid to say anything on their behalf. It's just to give me access to new features so that I can bring them to people. But I've been using Anthropic and Claude and paying for it for years because, in my opinion, it's better than ChatGPT at a lot of functions. So definitely try it if you haven't already. I'm sure I normally get some people in chat who are Claude maximalists as well. What about the new Chinese model Seed Dream? They say outdated image Gen 4. You just talk to talk. Well, do you want me to talk or do you want me to answer your question? Silly boy. Off you go. Seed Gen only just came out. Sorry, Seed Dream. I think it came out, was it yesterday or 2 days ago? And I haven't tried it out yet. When did it release? 15 hours ago? Yeah, I haven't. I was asleep, so I haven't used it yet. Anyway, get out of here. What was that one you just mentioned? Claude. So Claude, C-L-A-U-D. Weird name, not a very good name. So they have 2 models in particular called Sonnet and Opus. Sonnet is like their workhorse model, and Opus is their more in-depth thinking model. I would say, so if you're using the $20 a month plan, Opus is almost unusable, and they know this is a criticism. Opus is almost unusable because it uses your credits so quickly that you'll put in a couple of prompts and boom, you're done for the day, which on a $20 a month plan seems kind of unfair. On the $200 a month plan, that's the one I'm on, sorry, 200 or 100 and 100 and something, you get almost infinite use. You can use it a lot more, but it really, what it means is their Sonnet plan is what you're using on the $20 a month, and the Opus plan you only really get access to actually use it on the much higher plan. Also, they have Claude Code, which is, I know it's had a lot of criticism in the last couple of weeks, but it is still probably one of the best tools for coding, for building software. They've had some issues over the last week. Let me pull it up actually, because it's pull up their Twitter. They've had some issues where people were complaining, mainly on Twitter and Reddit. This is where kind of the front edge of the news comes from, that Claude had become stupid over the last few weeks. And we get this all the time on Reddit and on Twitter, with suddenly people are saying, oh no, the models used to be good and now it's got a lot worse. Generally, it's just people kind of starting to use it for more complex tasks and running into the edges of its functions and starting to hit those limits. However, in this case, Anthropic actually came out and said, oh no, it has had degraded performance for the last few weeks. Let me see if I can find it. Where's it gone? They've got rid of it. Anthropic Claude degraded. Let me find it. Okay, I'm going to have to look on Reddit. So they had a number of issues. Here is the official report. It said, resolved issue 1, a small percentage of Claude Sonnet 4 requests experienced degraded output quality due to a bug from August the 5th until September the 4th. 1 month. With the impact increasing from August 29th to September the 4th. A fix has been rolled out and the incident has been resolved. So that's all we got told, basically. It's like, oh yeah, we had some degradation in performance for a month. So it looks like all the people who were complaining about Claude over the last month have potentially been right, and there has been a real issue. That said, so don't let this stop you from trying it out because, well, one, they've fixed whatever this problem is. They fessed up to it. More importantly, they said, whoops, we it went horribly wrong. But it is generally a really good model. So whenever I'm doing any writing or any kind of deep thinking, Claude is the go-to. It's out of the box. The writing style of Claude is just much better than ChatGPT. ChatGPT has that. It feels like ChatGPT. You can read something and be like, oh, it's ChatGPT. Claude doesn't have that. It has a much better written style, and it requires less editing and work with. And it's also fantastic at code. So if you do any building, then Claude is going to be a top tool that you're going to be wanting to use. I believe Lovable now uses Claude in the back end. Don't quote me on that. I might be wrong. I know that they briefly made GPT-5 available. When GPT-5 came out, Lovable was like, hey, we've got GPT-5, and they had a little switcher so you could turn it on. That has disappeared, which tells me that it didn't go very well as an experiment and they've gone back to Claude, because Claude generally knocks coding tasks out of the park and it gets better and better as well. So yeah, give it a go. What is the best AI subscription for the money? I don't want to pay more than $20 a month. Am I being unrealistic with 20 per month? No, not at all. It depends what you want to use it for. If you want to code, if you want to build products, you'll probably need something. You'll probably need to hook into the API. You're probably going to need something a bit more, probably Claude Code. That said, if you're just using AI on a daily basis, if you're just using it for questions, if you're just using it for research, etc., then $20 a month is more than enough. I would actually say check out Perplexity Pro. So Perplexity Pro gives you access. Let me pull it up. I'm going to tell you how to get it for free too, so we can save you even more money. So Perplexity Pro gives you access to GPT-5, Claude 4 Sonnet, so it gives you Claude access, and Gemini 2.5 Pro. Honestly, these are the best models right now. I think it also gives you, access to O3, which is ChatGPT's reasoning model, Claude 4 Sonnet Thinking, and Grok 4, if you want to use Grok. So it gives you access to all of the other models. What you do not get are the specific tools related to having those subscriptions. So if you pay $20 a month to ChatGPT, you get more. You get things like persistent memory, you get projects, you get image generation, etc., etc. You get all of the additionals that are around the model. If you use Perplexity Pro, you get access to the models, so you can ask questions, but you don't get all of the additional stuff. That might be fine for you. It really depends on your usage. So one Perplexity Pro subscription, which is $20 a month, will give you access to all of the other models. So you don't need to get $20 subscriptions for each and every single one of them, which is good. So I currently have subscriptions for ChatGPT, Claude, Grok 4, I guess, because I have Twitter Premium or whatever it's called, and Gemini I pay for. So I'm paying for all of these. You could avoid doing that by getting Perplexity Pro. That allows you to have access to them all. You can also get it for free. I think this is still going. Let me pull it up on my screen. If you see it on, you might need to hop over to YouTube. But there is a Perplexity Pro with PayPal offer right now, which is exclusive for PayPal users. All you need is to own a PayPal account. That's it, which doesn't cost any money. And you can get a full year of Pro completely free when you connect your PayPal account and choose a billing method. So basically you connect it up and you're going to get Perplexity Pro for $0 for 12 months. And then it becomes $20 a month. So if you want it for free for a year and then you can remember to cancel it, this is going to be the way. So if you Google Perplexity PayPal subscription, it will probably turn up. Otherwise, hop over to the YouTube. Look for the time code around 24 minutes. That's where we are right now, and you'll be able to find the link on my screen. I'll also put it in the newsletter tomorrow, just to help people. I've been reminding people about this, but it's hard to get you the link without reading it out, and that isn't very exciting. So that would be my recommendation. If you don't want to spend any money, go and get a Perplexity Pro subscription for free by connecting your PayPal. Then you get access to Claude, you get access to Gemini, you get access to GPT-5, Grok, everything. So hopefully that is useful. But if you did want to buy one subscription for $20 a month, I'd personally go for Claude Anthropic. Ken was saying, I use Claude for coding all of the time in GitHub Copilot. Works wonders. Almost don't use ChatGPT. Agree. So I use Claude for all of my coding. I use ChatGPT for my daily stuff. Because what ChatGPT has, which the others don't really, is a persistent memory. So it will remember stuff about you. The example I always give is, you can't see it, but on my desk, there's a whole bunch of cameras and audio equipment and lights, and it all goes through various switchboards and bits and pieces, things like this. I'm not using it at the moment, so I can show it to you. So it goes through all of these different things, and it's complicated. And to work it out took me months, because I had to keep researching and working out, oh, okay, how do I get 4K video through? How do I do, sync up my audio, etc. ChatGPT was fantastic for this because it had memory of all of my previous conversations of it. So I didn't need to feed in my technical specifications and my setup into every single chat, because it remembered all of that from before, which meant I could hop into a new chat and say, hey, I'm getting some microphone delay when I stream to YouTube. Why is that? And it already knew that, oh, you've got a microphone through a FET head into using an XLR cable into a Focusrite, which then goes into a Mac Pro. It already knows all of that context, so it can very quickly answer questions. So that is ChatGPT's kind of killer source. That's what makes it really useful. The more you use it, the better it gets. The other models, the other chatbots, have been adding persistent memory, but they don't have the same level of functionality as ChatGPT. So if you're using AI on a daily basis for kind of work and personal tasks, and ChatGPT may be better, but for like writing and coding, Claude is better. It depends. Use both. Try them both out. How can you opt out of Claude's new terms and conditions, finding it difficult? There's a way to do it. Let me pull it up. So Claude introduced, Anthropic are funny like this. They're very open, and they're probably the most ethical of the various, where is it? Data privacy. Okay, got it. So they're the most open and ethical of most of the larger AI companies, which is why it's bizarre there are hunger strikes going on outside their San Francisco office right now instead of Meta or OpenAI. Anyway, whatever. A week or two ago, they said we're updating our policies and we're going to use your chats to train our models. All the other companies were already doing this. And they were just doing it on the slide quietly. You can find in ChatGPT a way to turn it off, but they kind of hide it behind a few different settings, and they make the wording kind of slippery. Anthropic were the company who actually came out and said, hey, by the way, we're changing our policies, and from now on, we're going to be training using your data to make a better model. And everyone was like, what the hell? But this is just because Anthropic bothered to tell us. If you want to turn it off, you go into settings, privacy, review, and then there is an update to the consumer terms and policies. It will take effect on September 28th. So they've given us about a month notice as well. Again, Anthropic are not bad guys generally. And you can toggle it off. That's it. So it's going to be settings, privacy, scroll down to the bottom. There'll be a review button where you can see the terms and services. Then there's you can help improve Claude. Switch that off and then click accept. Done. That is it. So yeah, they got a lot of flack for it, but I think it's just because they bothered to tell people what they were doing, and most AI companies do not do that. Ben says, what do you do for a living to need all those subscriptions? Well, I talk about artificial intelligence, so I need to know what is happening. I give workshops to companies, teaching them about how to use AI on a day-to-day basis, teaching their staff how to use it. So I need to be fully up to date on everything. So I now I'm getting free subscriptions from a lot of the companies because I talk about their stuff. So I've got a deal with, not a deal, so I've got an agreement with Anthropic, and they give me Max for free. I've got one with OpenAI as well, so I get access to the top levels for free, which is, I'm fully happy to disclose that, but that allows me to check out the new features and to be able to talk about them faster than everyone else. Like, I just got access to the Claude Chrome extension, which they've rolled out to about 1,000 people, and I need to do a video on that and talk about it before they release it publicly. But it's not like a money transaction. They just give me access. I get to play around with it. I can talk about it if I want to. I don't even need to be nice. That's why even on these streams, I will talk about problems with Anthropic. I'll talk about problems with OpenAI. I'll definitely talk about problems with Meta, because none of them are paying me, but they give me access generally for free. AI founders do short form social media but few views. Is it because viewer base is customer rich? No, probably because their content's not good. If you're not getting many views, it's a problem with the content. There could be a number of different reasons. Probably the hooks are not good. Or if they are founders, I imagine you see this again, not just in AI, but in all industries. Founders tend to just talk about their product. They don't talk about themselves, and they don't talk enough about what the customer's actually interested in. So if these founders are getting low views, that's probably why. It's probably because their social media short form is not very good. Simple as that, really. If I have ChatGPT Plus and Gemini Pro and don't care about Grok, is there even a need for Perplexity? So Perplexity used to be, the unique selling point used to be the fact that it cited sources. So let's go back a year or two. You'd ask ChatGPT for something, for some research, some market research, for example, and it would happily go ahead and make a report for you. And you'd have to question, like, okay, where did you get this information from? Or you'd have to go and double check the information on Google, because it would just make stuff up sometimes, because it would fill in the gaps and try to please you and create something that looked like feasible market research. What Perplexity did, and they did this a couple of years ago, was every time you did a Perplexity search, it would go and look online, and it would pull in about 20 to 30 different sources. It would use those sources to prepare its answer, and then it would cite them. There'd be literally, what they're called, oh my god, like footnotes. There'd be little numbers and footnotes, and you could follow the sources and see what it was citing. So that was its killer application about 2 years ago or so. Since then, all of the main models, so ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, all of them have added the ability to search the web, and that with that comes the ability to source and cite the information and where it's coming from. So that means Perplexity's unique selling point isn't very unique anymore. So I used to recommend it as the best one for research. Now not so necessary, because you can put to the other models, so you can put the main models, ChatGPT, Anthropic, etc., into deep thinking mode or research mode, and they're going to be able to do the same thing. So you don't need a Perplexity subscription, I would say. The main reason that I was recommending it in that case was somebody was budget conscious, and they didn't want to get all of these subscriptions, which I 100% understand. So I wanted to point out there's a free version of Perplexity Pro, which you can get by connecting with your PayPal account, and that gives you access to basically all of the models for free for 1 year. So it's a good way to try them all out. Spark Insight. What platform is best for creating PowerPoint type presentations? So creating decks, creating presentations, you'd think that PowerPoint would be really good at this because they've added AI into it. It's not. So the Copilot inside PowerPoint is a bit rubbish. That is why, potentially, Microsoft are now teaming up with Anthropic to add Claude into PowerPoint. So Claude is much better at designing PowerPoints than ChatGPT, for example, and it's going to be better at doing it inside Copilot. That is the idea. However, there are purpose-built tools that do this really well. My favorite is Gamma, so Gamma. You've probably heard of this, or some of you will have. So Gamma.app, it is just a tool that does exactly this. It creates presentations using artificial intelligence. What I think differentiates Gamma from a lot of the other kind of competitors in this space is the fact that they have a good taste level. A lot of AI driven design has no taste at all, and it looks like trash basically. Gamma out of the box looks good. So you put in the information, it will generate those slides, and automatically it's like, oh, this looks great. So it's much different to the several hundred other competitors who are trying to do the same thing. So I would go with Gamma. There's another one called Tome, Tome. I think they're still going. Let's try. Yes, they are. Always have to check with these AI apps. I think they're still going. Their page isn't loading very well. Maybe I can't recommend them. Their page isn't loading for me properly. So I'd go with Gamma. That's a shame. Tome was very good. If anyone from Tome is watching this or sees this later, correct me if I'm wrong, but it looks like, yeah, Tome is dead. Okay, Gamma, nice and easy. With Revolut Metal, you get a free Perplexity Pro account for lifetime. Really? I have Revolut Metal. Oh, I was about to wave it, but I shouldn't do that on stream. I was about to show my credit and my Revolut card on stream. I have Perplexity. Sorry, I have Revolut Metal, so I need to check that. AI to place loads of jobs. Will our role turn to helping people use AI in life instead of work? Well, we don't know if it's going to displace jobs. It is starting to, we think, with entry-level jobs, but nobody really knows what's coming. We can make educated guesses, but this is unprecedented. It's a technology that we haven't really seen the likes of before. I mean, the internet's probably the closest, but this goes beyond that. So we don't know what it's going to do to jobs. We know there's going to be disruption, especially for the next few decades, but we don't really know what shape or form it's going to take. In the meantime, helping people to use AI is a good way for you to make money, personally. So that's when I go and give workshops, I charge a couple of $1,000s per hour to give a workshop. So for the next 5-10 years, that's going to be a good way to make money. Absolutely. Beyond that, we don't know. And we do not know what the full impact is going to be on jobs. There is starting to be evidence that it is eating junior roles. So instead of stealing jobs from people at the top, it's not going to be like, oh, Colin's a manager and he goes to work every day, and then one day he goes in and he's found that Colin has been replaced by AI. It's not going to be that. Instead, it's going to be, or it is so far, based on the evidence, the entry-level roles, we need less of them. Because instead of hiring 4 people into a junior position and having them as a team, you might hire 1 person, and that 1 person can use AI to be 4 times as productive and to do the work of 4 people. So we're going to see, if you imagine a corporation or a company as a pyramid, we're going to see that bottom, the lower edge, start to collapse, get smaller and smaller. That's already happening. We're seeing huge reductions in job creation, new jobs, and entry-level jobs in the US. And then what will happen from there is that effect will roll up. So you have less people at the bottom, which means there are less people who have the skills to move up to management and leadership. So the whole industry, the whole company will start to squeeze flat like that. At the same time, AI is going to get better and better, and we'll be able to take roles further up the chain. This will happen on the company level because the leadership don't really necessarily care about the longevity of the company. They just need to stay competitive. They need to get to retirement. I'm talking about in the West. In China, it's a bit different. But in the West, the leadership need to get to retirement. They need to make sure their company doesn't dissolve underneath them. So they'll be perfectly fine to cut costs by bringing in artificial intelligence at the lower level, because in 10 years' time, hell, they're retired, they're on the beach, and they don't give a damn. But what's going to happen because of this profit motive is, if every company starts to do this and squish in from the bottom, that's going to happen at an industry-wide level as well, because to compete in the industry, you need to do the same in order to cut costs. So we'll see industries that start to lose their bottom, and they won't have people to proceed to the upper levels, and we may have a skill drain, basically. That is where it's going to get messy, but that's going to take a little bit longer than just AI swooping in and taking jobs. It's more of an insidious erosion effect, which is going to take potentially years, but it seems to be happening. The more evidence we get from US job creations and there's a recent Harvard study, which was 285,000 companies they studied, they're seeing I believe it's a 26% reduction in entry-level positions over the last year. So it's happening. What I would say is put in place different streams of income. So if you can start your own business, I mean, I'm biased, I always suggest people start their own business, but if you have something that you control, then you have the flexibility to be able to pivot depending on what happens, because we just assume that we don't know what's going to happen. Therefore, having control of our circumstances, having control of our future is really, really important, because it allows us to move. If we are working within a big organization, we are there then at the whims of what decisions they make. So if we're in a big company and they decide, oh, we're not really doing AI, that company will be dead in 10 years' time, because competitors who do use AI will crush them, basically, or new entrants will come up with something that would disrupt the industry. So being in a company that refuses to use artificial intelligence is very risky, whereas having your own thing and being able to leverage these technologies, I think it's probably the most exciting time we've had in decades to start your own business because of AI, because it just allows you to do so much so quickly, even as a solopreneur. But that's me, I'm biased. I'm sure other people will say different things. You said you like Claude more than other models. Can you tell me why? It depends. It depends what I'm using it for. So different models are better at different tasks. I do a lot of writing and I do a lot of thinking. So Claude is very, very good at those tasks. And I also vibe code, and Claude is, again, very good at those tasks. So because I focus on those tasks, Claude is my mainstay. It does most of the work for me. I still use ChatGPT. I have Gemini. I have Grok. I don't really use Grok. I see no reason for it. But for me, it's primarily ChatGPT and Claude. ChatGPT tends to be for more personal things. Let's say I'm planning a holiday. I'll do that in ChatGPT. If I am doing work stuff, it will be in Claude. But I use both. And I highly recommend people just try out different models and see what works best for them for their different tasks. Okay, I'm going to hop over to yeah, here we are. There was it's a study. We have to take it with a few pinches of salt, I think. It's from the Future Advertising and Tom's Guide and Tech Radar. Okay, so it's one of these pieces of research that's been paid for by, in this case, tech websites. That's fine. We just need to take that into account. Research gets paid for all the time. But this is about adoption, and it's really useful to see the speed of adoption. So since Future Consumers AI Sentiment Tracking launched in February 2024, so a year and a half ago, claimed adoption rates have skyrocketed, and the share of those who use AI in their day-to-day lives is now into the majority. So this is a useful checkup on, are people in the public actually using AI? Because remember, we're in a little bubble of people who really care about this stuff. The fact that you're watching me talk about this stuff tells me that you're in that 1% who actually pay attention, because why on earth would you be watching me? There's much better things to do on the internet. So they asked 2,000 US and UK consumers. It's not that many, but this is a survey, it's not a study. I'd love if they did more than 2,000 though, because that's a bit small. Here we go. So what I wanted to see, well over half of all US and UK respondents report using AI routinely, with a steady growth in the US and a significant jump in the UK. UK growth mainly came from those who say they use it all the time, which saw a 250% lift from our February 2025 survey. So from February to September, apparently this jumped up by 250%. Meanwhile, US growth was driven by those who say they use it a bit, a group that showed a 12% lift from February, much smaller. So this is the big headline though. 67% of respondents in the UK claim to use AI on a regular basis, which is up 22% in the last 6 months. So that means that February, earlier this year, 45% of people said we use AI on a regular basis, so under 50%. And now, September, it is over. It is 67%, so it is 2/3 of the UK are now using AI on a regular basis. And in the US, it's slightly down. It is 55% in the US claim to use AI on a regular basis. So whether or not these numbers are fully accurate, and we can look at the surveying method, we can look at who they asked, etc. It kind of doesn't matter though. I think the big headline figure here is that in the last 3 years, so ChatGPT, the public version came out less than 3 years ago. I think the birthday will be at the end of September. So we're approaching the 3rd birthday of ChatGPT. In that time, it's gone from being unused, so basically 0% adoption, to a majority. The majority of the country, whether it's the UK or the US, are now using it. And I wanted to actually compare this to, because I think it's really useful, I wanted to compare it to the internet and computers. How long did they take to reach this kind of level of saturation, to reach this number of people within a market? So generative AI reached 40% adoption in, this is US data, 40% adoption in 2 years. Okay, the internet took about 6 years to reach the same level of adoption, and personal computing, so having computers in your house, this is, I remember growing up, because I'm older, took 12 years. It took 12 years for everybody, or sorry, for 40% of people to have computers in their house. So Gen AI is just moving a lot faster than all of these other technologies, which makes sense. We already have the hardware, we have the personal computers, we have the telephones, that is done. We have the internet pretty much universally, that's done too. So this is a new technology built on top of PCs, built on top of the internet, and now we have AI, and everything is getting faster and faster and faster, which personally I find is very exciting. I think it's also useful to compare to other recent technology booms that we've had, so things like crypto, Web3 technologies in general, like blockchain, the Internet of Things, virtual reality, augmented reality. For the last 10 years or so, these have been the hot new fads, but they never reach this kind of adoption. The number of people using blockchain is minuscule. The number of people using VR, it has remained a niche fun thing to do, but has never broken into the mainstream. Whereas generative AI, ChatGPT and the like, is much closer to computers, much closer to the internet. It is a technology that has immediately been functional and useful for a large group of people, and has therefore rocketed into, well, 67% of UK homes based on this study. That cannot be said of the other fads that we've had in the last couple of years. So this leads to questions of, well, is AI a bubble? We can have two types of bubbles. We can have a technological bubble, something like crypto, something like blockchain, where people get really excited about it, but the technology itself is not actually being used. It's a solution in search of a problem. And blockchain is a really cool technology. It just never really found the problem that allowed it to be useful. We might actually get it with AI authentication, but that's a different discussion. Whereas AI has immediately been useful to people of all ages, all over the world, and now the adoption is absolutely soaring as a result of that. So we can have a technological bubble. I don't think that's what AI is. I think AI is closer to the internet, maybe even more important. But that's different to a financial bubble. You can, the VCs over in San Francisco and the stock markets in America can overheat because people are throwing dumb money into AI projects just because it has the word AI in it. And this year in particular, if it's agentic, if it has the word agentic, here you go, here's billions of dollars. That could be a bubble, but that is separate from the technology. So even with the internet, we had a bubble, and then we had a bust in 2000, 2001. It all came collapsing down. But out the end of that, out the back, we had the internet, and we had companies like Google and Amazon, and companies that are now the mainstay of the world, basically, because they were built on top of the internet. And I think we're going to see something similar with generative AI. We probably will see a market reset, a financial reset, an investment reset. That does not mean that generative AI is going away. So all these people talking about a bubble and talking about a crash, yeah, they're probably right, but they're talking about a financial bubble. They're not talking about, well, so they're conflating the financials and the technology. That is incorrect. We will have a financial correction, and then the technology itself will just continue to be used, and it will continue to get better. We will build more on top of it. So whenever you see a doomer talking about the bubble, remember that there are two types of bubbles here, financial and technological, and they do not need to connect. User 2822824883 etc says, how do you protect your IP or create moats? Do you mean me personally or in general? If you are creating using AI, the process of building is becoming easier and easier, and it's going to continue to do so, especially building prototypes, especially building, like, turning your idea into something tangible. I'm working with a charity right now, pro bono, and helping them to make an application. I'm actually looking for people to volunteer, by the way, to help them with the coding portion, but we are putting together a prototype, and we are able to do that within days rather than having to hire a developer or a development team for £100,000 and then spend 6 months putting together a prototype in order to go and get financing, etc. We don't need to do any of that anymore. We can throw together a prototype really fast so that people can look at it and be like, huh, yeah, I get it, cool, we're going to fund you. This is the same across the board. You can now build really, really quickly. So if you go to an AI tool directory, or product hunt, you will see just a graveyard. So even just now, when somebody asked, can you recommend a PowerPoint creation tool using AI? And I was like, oh, you could use Gamma or Tome. I went to Tome's website and it looks like they're dead. This is happening all over the industry because it's very hard to protect the moat. Because if you build something that's cool, anyone, including myself, can come along, look at your cool idea and be like, that's cool, I'm going to recreate that in Lovable. I'm going to build that using Cursor. I'm going to make a twist on that and recreate it. And I can do that very quickly, extremely quickly, which means the moat is no longer about building. It used to be, because it was hard to get a technical co-founder, or you'd have to hire somebody who could code. So you'd have to raise money first. So it used to be when you went to entrepreneurship events, it would be lots of idea people who would be looking for technical co-founders. That's not the case anymore, because you can now build very quickly, a prototype at least, using vibe coding. That means the distribution has become the moat. It's the ability to get your product to market and start to generate cash so you can reinvest it into making your product better, into acquiring more customers, into basically moving faster than everyone else. So distribution is now the moat. That is personally why I'm focusing on things like this. This is why I'm doing lives. This is why I have a newsletter and social media. I'm building the distribution up first so that when I want to launch something, it's much easier to do so. And I've already done this with a few products. We did launches of the AI workshop kit, and every time we launch it, it's a 6-figure launch, so we can consistently do that now because we have distribution in place. And that is impossible if you don't have the distribution, because you either need to borrow somebody's audience, which means you split the cash with them. You do affiliate deals, referral deals, for example. You can buy an audience, that's using adverts. It's doable, but it's hard to pull off and you need cash up front. Or you can build your own audience, which is what I and many other people are choosing to do, because it then allows you, in this world where building is becoming easier, it allows you to actually get what you're building to market. So on that note, after this stream, which I'll finish up in about 5 minutes, I'm doing my build in public stream where I am building using Lovable an application, and I'm going to take it to market probably in 2 weeks or so. I'm building for 1 hour a day. The building portion is not the difficult portion. The taking it to market, making sales, that's going to be the difficult portion. So moat comes from that now. It comes from distribution, and there are many ways to get that, but I think content, talking about what you're building, is a very accessible way. It does require getting on camera. It does require that kind of exposure and that vulnerability, but it is available to everybody who has a phone, can start to create content and start to build that distribution moat. But it's a great question. How do you protect anything? You don't. You just need to have a moat that's made of distribution rather than from your product. How far away do you think the financial bubble may be? No idea. Not really my field. I think I'm sure we'll see a reset in the next couple of years, but I don't know. I don't know enough about that, nor do I pay attention to that. There are much smarter people than me on that. I'm focusing mainly on the practical uses of AI, which continue to increase, but I can see a lot of money flowing into AI that is, it's going to be hard to recoup it. Let's put it that way. The profits required to back up these valuations are going to be immense, and that basically people are betting on getting to AGI and beyond, which may happen, but it's a very speculative bet. So I don't know in terms of timelines. Hello, do you teach people how to use AI on your platform? No, but I'm thinking of putting together a kind of a basic training. It's something that it's been on my mind for a while. I just don't really know what form that takes, because a lot of the time I just tell people just start using AI, like just start using ChatGPT in your day-to-day life and you'll work it out. But I understand some people want a bit more of a kind of a formal structure, a way to kind of experiment. So it's something I'm thinking of. I just don't know what it looks like, but I'd be very happy to put together a training like that once I work out what it looks like. Great answer, Mind and Glory. Yeah, I'm very honest when I don't know something. Unlike ChatGPT, when I don't know something, I'll just say I don't know. It's a safer bet. There are too many people online who have opinions about absolutely everything. I do not. I do not. If I don't know about a topic, I'm not just going to spout off about it. Oh, sorry, user 44486039945. What is a moat? So moat, M-O-A-T. So when you create a business, there's always a question of, well, okay, I'm doing well, I'm making money, I'm making profit. Other people are going to be looking at what I'm doing and they're going to be thinking, I can do that too. And they will enter the market. So if I am the person who's in the market already, I'm called the incumbent. I'm the person who sits at the middle, or I'm doing well, I'm making money. And then new entrants come into the market and they will challenge my incumbent position. And often they can do this in a much more scrappy way than me, because let's say I've been in the market for 10 years, I've been making money, I've got a team. What that means is you tend to have bloat. You tend to have a lot of people working for you. It's kind of hard to turn the ship around. There's endless meetings, committees, etc. Whereas a new entrant into the market can move fast because it tends to be one or two people, and they're able to see what I, as the incumbent, are doing poorly, and very quickly remedy that and produce a new product which is better for the market, better for the customers, cheaper as well. And we see this again and again and again in business, basically. So AI has sped that up, because I can now basically go to a website, dig around, take a few screenshots of their pages, work out what their business model is, work out roughly how the app is working, how they're deploying the value, and I can take that over to a vibe coding tool and say, hey, we're going to make our own version of Product Hunt. Here are some screenshots. Here's the flow. This is how they make money, blah, blah, blah. Let's go. So I can have Claude put together a business plan. I can have it put together a technical plan. It will work out what databases I need, what kind of what I need on my site, etc. I can replicate the product side of that incredibly fast using artificial intelligence, like an hour. A very basic version, but an hour or so would be all I need. Previously, it would take a team who were technical, and it would take a longer time. So it was less feasible to challenge incumbents. With artificial intelligence, it's trivial. It's very easy to do. What this means is the distribution and and marketing and people knowing your name, your brand, etc. This becomes the moat. It is not your product anymore. It is instead how you're known in the market. The fact that people know you at all. It's about your marketing channels. It's about your SEO, it's about your social media, it's about all of these other elements around your product that drive people into your business. That is what now protects your business, not your product itself, because it's becoming a lot easier to replicate product, digital product at least. So moat is what protects your business. It used to be product. It is no longer product. It is now distribution. Mind and Glory says, planning to set up an AI account on X, build that distribution. So for distribution, have a look at, I call him out every time we talk about this topic, but I think he did it so well. A guy called YonnyMan.mp4. He did a really clever thing where he just started recording. He had a little, I haven't got mine here, but he had an Osmo little camera, a couple $100. He's just started recording videos on Instagram primarily, saying, hey, my name is Yoni, I'm going to be building an application, I'm thinking about doing this. And he just started talking about his process. He documented his learning process, he documented the struggles, people find them more interesting. He documented successes and basically walked through the whole process of building a business. And because he was doing that, people started following him and following his journey. That meant when he came to the point where he actually decided what he wanted to build, he was able to talk to these people and say, hey, would this be interesting? And enough of them said, yeah, that sounds cool. That he was like, okay, I'll start to build this. And then he was able to go back to them and say, hey, would you want to buy this? And they're like, yeah, that's cool. And then he would continue to buy it. And then when he was ready to launch, he took it to them and he said, okay, time to buy. And they did. Last I checked, he was on 30,000 monthly recurring revenue. Probably more now, but he had a really good launch because he already had an audience in place. So Yoni, he's YonnyMan.mp4. Yoni will do it, and he's 185,000 followers. All he did was post a video every single day, and he's on day 467. So it's consistently putting out content, talking about what he was doing, and building a product, and then launching it to that audience. And he was immediately able to make good money, $30,000+ a month, because he had that audience in place. Whereas what most people do is they build the product in secret, quietly, because they think, oh no, this is a special idea, and somebody will steal my idea, and then they will launch it, but they don't have an audience to launch it to. So they go around to big influencers and they say, hey, do you want to promote my product? I'll give you whatever, cut of the revenue, but it's not an attractive deal for content creators or influencers. So it means that this product that they might have spent 6 months building in secret doesn't go anywhere, and we just see these products die, especially in the AI space. There are so many dead products because the distribution channels were not built first. So you have to do that first. This is the new paradigm. This is the new way it works. So I understand if this is upsetting, especially if you don't want to put yourself out there. But this is how you manage to launch something successfully nowadays, is you need to build the audience first, and then you launch your product. Very different. Hey Will, how are you doing? Good morning. Oh, right, I am going to, oh yeah, we're at 1 hour. So I'm going to finish up for the, hey, good morning Will. So Will knows that I'm real. There's people come into my chat and they're like, Kyle's not real, he's made of AI. Will, tell them that I'm real. I'm going to finish up this stream. I'm going to move over to the secondary stream, which is where I'm building in public. Remember that all of this is available on YouTube. We edit it, we cut it up, we make it nice, a lot less rambly than the live. Consider this the dress rehearsal that I do every single morning after my coffee. The YouTube version is a bit cleaner, it goes to the editor. There's also a free newsletter which comes out every single day. You can find a link in my bio to that, and you can find me on YouTube at I am Kyle Balmer, and that's just going to give you access to all of the news, everything that we've covered in a much more structured format, instead of me rambling and telling you to all use Claude as I do every single day. The next stream that I'm going to be starting in a few minutes, once I refill my cup, will be building in public. So I'm building over 30 days an application using artificial intelligence, which I'm going to be launching at the end of the 30 days. Specifically, I'm building a tool that allows you to make lead magnets based off YouTube videos, and we're on day, I want to say day 7 or 8. The basic functionality is in place. Anyway, you can come over to that stream and you can see me build in public. You can also ask questions. I have plenty of time to answer questions while the vibe coding tool is working. So it's a lot like this, but I'm doing something at the same time. I would say if you are on TikTok, it's going to be better to watch on YouTube. The reason is you can see my screen, it's in 4K, etc, etc. I will set it up so TikTok can see the screen, but it's just not really the same. So come over to YouTube. Also a good reason to subscribe. Please do subscribe. I'm slowly grinding my way up to 10,000 subscribers over on YouTube, but wow, it is hard work compared to TikTok. So please do subscribe. Thank you guys. I will be back tomorrow for the news stream again at 10 a.m. And if you want to join me over on the other live stream for Building in Public, I'll see you there in a moment. Cheers, guys. Thanks so much. Close this one out.